all salespeople are in for a pretty big awakening soon, but I think security is especially. There are a lot of salespeople out there that think they're better than they are.
Thank you for listening in. I'm Don May from IPVM, and we're joined by Chris Peterson from the Vector firm. Chris has a wealth of knowledge in the security industry and in sales. Chris, can you tell us where you're recording from and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, literally, I'm in Dallas right now. I'm in a Hilton Garden Inn. But I'm on travel visiting a client. But where I'm at in my career, I've had about 25 years of experience in sales and sales management, and the last 15 has been primarily in the security industry. The first 6 or 7 of that 15 years was in the, I guess it's been 16 years. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Was working for a manufacturer as a leader of sales. And what I noticed I noticed 2 things during my path. One was as we were building a channel and working with system integrators, that those system integrators, it didn't matter, Donald, it didn't matter where it was. It could have been Tucson, it could have been New York, it could have been Sao Paulo or Dubai, wherever I was. Those system integrators had, they were usually small. They had an owner that worked 80 hours a week, and they just didn't have time to build a sales process and find the right sales people. They found good people, but they didn't necessarily have people that had sales experience and understood the fundamentals of selling. Now, that was one thing. The other dynamic I saw, this is 2005, 6, 7, somewhere in that period, was that the whole art of selling was changing, and it was changing due to the internet. It was changing due to mobility. And that's just rocked every business to business industry, really. And then here we are in 2019, and people still haven't figured it out. So that's why I started this business, was to help those. First, I started specifically in the security industry, and now we're probably 80% security, and we work in some parallel industries like AV and like IT. Yeah, but pretty much everybody does security nowadays, or at least they want to. So that's it, man. 9 years after starting this thing, we're booming, and we have a complete marketing program, a complete sales consulting program, and an online sales training program called Vector Firm Sales Academy. And we're cranking, man. It's fun.
Wow, that's great. And I think it's worth noting too, before we get into the meat of this podcast, you are also the security sales instructor for our IPVM course.
I am, and I love doing that. Every year I bug John at about June or July and say, "Hey, man, we're going to do this again," because it's a blast. Working with you guys is a lot of fun, first of all, but secondly, just the way we do it and the way we ask for action items and we give feedback. It's really cool because I get to, whatever the exercise is, put together an email to get in the door of prospects, and everybody submits it, and I get to go in there and give feedback. It's a lot of fun.
Great. I love it. So why don't we get going here? I think, why don't you just give us a quick overview of the current sales industry?
What's happened is, and I'm going to speak specifically to what I know, and what I know is the system integration world and the manufacturers that sell to them and sell through them. I'm going to stick to our world, and I think that's okay, because that's pretty much our audience, probably. Here's what I've seen. So in the last, let's say 12, 13 years, the world of selling has changed more than it did in the previous 2,000 years. And I mean that's not just for me trying to make an impact. Forever, the sales process was the same. You had to be a persistent person to get in the door, to be able to sell to somebody. And when you're in the door, you had to, be able to be pretty aggressive, illustrate your features, what the benefits of those features were, and then, use closing tactics and get a decision maker, one person across the table from you, get them to ultimately say yes. And I remember when I got out of school, I have a mechanical engineering degree from the University of Florida. And after a year of doing management consulting, I went to sell copiers. And when I learned to sell, because I wanted to jump into sales, I really did. I saw the competitiveness of it. I loved the environment. And so I went to sell copiers. And when I went through the training and was selling copiers, I remember going through the closing tactics and the closing questions and the process of closing and thinking, holy cow, this is tricky. This is really manipulative. And at the same time, I became pretty good at it, but I didn't like it necessarily. Now that's what was forever, right? That process that I just described. Yep. Now let's bring in the internet. Let's bring in mobility. And by mobility, I mean, mobile phones and being able to get information at any minute. The fact is you can't do that anymore. Simply being persistent, by the way, persistence is extremely important, but simply being persistent doesn't get you in the door anymore. Right. You don't get an opportunity to meet with a decision maker. There are no more decision makers anymore. Right. And you can't manipulate people, and you can't have a bad past history because they can find you. Right, so the world has changed as far as selling goes today. And the cause of that change is because our customers have access to any information they want at any moment of the day for free.
Right.
So what that means, think about that for a second. So where in 2003, a system integrator would knock on the door of a customer and the customer would say, oh gosh, I got loads of work to do. I don't have time for a salesperson, but I need to learn about this IP video stuff that's coming out. Yes, send her in. Tell her to come in and I need to talk to her. Today, why would they talk to anybody if they got a mound of paper to go through, right?
Yeah.
They can just go online and look at the latest articles and get all the information. So because of that free access to information, customers think that they don't need salespeople anymore, and they don't in the traditional way of selling. Right. However, if salespeople figure out that, you know what, we're not needed in the same way we used to do things, but boy, there is a heck of a need over here in this process, then they'll stick out not only to their customers, but against their competition too. So that's about 3 minutes of me rambling. And what it really boils down to is this, Donald, is that customers have an idea that they don't need us anymore. And because of that, the traditional way of selling doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And as we think about this, what do you think is unique about the security industry in this dynamic?
Well, so all salespeople are in for a pretty big awakening soon, but I think security is especially. There are a lot of salespeople out there that think they're better than they are, and I hate saying that. I sound like I wrote an article about this, I don't know, 6 months ago, and I was afraid that everyone would hate me for it, but it was really taken well. At least I got a lot of calls from it. But the world is experiencing a huge growth in the economy, right? And it's been going on for years. So that's one level, right? Because of the economy growing, we're doing well. Salespeople are hitting their numbers. They're having record years. The guy that used to do pretty well and had a nice Toyota Camry is now driving a Lexus. And the guy that was driving a Lexus is now driving a Tesla. And the lady that used to take the Caribbean vacation is now going to New Zealand for 3 weeks, and that's fine. That's awesome. The problem is that we think that we think it's because of our skill set. Now, bear with me, folks that are listening or hang up on me right now. So there are 3 levels to this. One is the economy in general. 2 is the sector of economy called development is expanding greatly. Everywhere you go, I don't care where you go, there are cranes all over the place. I mean, you go to a simple town like, I don't know, Macon, Georgia, and it probably looks like Dubai did in 2002. I mean, There's cranes everywhere. Actually, I haven't been to Macon. I don't know that for a fact, but I bet it's true. And now third, okay, so you got the economy in general is expanding. Development is expanding where we put our stuff. New facilities go up, they need cameras, they need access control, they need intercom systems. Now, the third area is security in general. Security is a hot industry. People, even if they're not growing and building a new building, they're updating their security system or they're bringing in new technology because security is a hot commodity. Now, take all 3 of those things, man. You got security salespeople who are busy, who are hitting their numbers, who are working 60 hours a week, but they're not finding any new accounts. They're not getting any new discovery meetings. They're not out prospecting. They're not out networking. They're simply answering the phone and working their tails off to generate enough proposals.
Yep.
So when that economy starts contracting, which it will, it's just mathematics, it's gravity, we're going to be in trouble.
And so you think that's just a degree of complacency that you're seeing across the industry?
I don't. I see a lot of people working their tails off, and
Okay.
I'm glad you asked that because I don't want to come across that way. Everyone I work with works their tails off. I mean, really, they're working. You know, I was making fun with the 3 weeks in New Zealand. I don't know many salespeople that are taking vacations nowadays because they have so many proposals to generate, so many customers to call on. Here's the problem. The problem is all they've been trained on is this old way of selling, if they've been trained at all, and it doesn't work. So since they're so busy, what they've basically evolved into as a process is, I'm going to wake up and go to the office and put out all the fires I have to put out today. And then I'm going to do that tomorrow. And then tomorrow, there's no proactive process to balance out their sales cycle.
So that begs the question then, so you kind of gave a quick history and talked about, what's happening today, but what do you think is going to be different for sales professionals in the future?
Well, it all depends on what they're doing today. I mean, I can tell you where there's an opportunity, and if they do the right thing. And as I'm talking, Donald, I feel as though I'm being candid, but I feel as though I'm presenting a big commercial for our training program with IPVM, or even for my business. And I don't mean to. This is the scenario that this is what I do every day. This is why I'm in Dallas right now, and this is why I'll be in Detroit in a couple of weeks, and Memphis, and this is what I do. Right. And it's what I see out there, and it's what I live constantly. So it's maybe it is a commercial, but that's not the purpose of me of saying these things. So in the future, I'll tell you, there's a heck of an opportunity if a sales. So let's think about it for a second. If I'm a consumer, let's think about it from your customer's perspective. Mm-hmm. Your customer who is a facilities manager at a hospital, or maybe they have a security manager and he's got to work with, Michelle in IT and Jacob over in facilities, right? But your point of contact is the security manager there at the hospital. Mm-hmm. So that security manager, if we don't up our game and do things differently, is simply going to be buying very complex systems that have very complex installation methodologies, like they're buying a pair of socks on Amazon.
Right.
If we don't up our game, why wouldn't they? So what they really need is they need experts that are going to come in and let them know about their problems ahead of time. Let them know, hey, Windows 7 is going out of existence. So, okay, when do we have till January? Okay, it's a little bit too late. Why weren't you in there last February telling them? Why weren't you in there, setting up that appointment? Why weren't you doing LinkedIn posts about it? Why weren't you, asking marketing to create a blog post about it or some type of a case study or use case? And why weren't you forwarding it out to all of your prospective customers as well as current customers? Back in February, back a year ago when you knew about this, first knew about this. That's the type of salespeople we've got to be. We've got to identify problems before they happen. Talk about those problems that they're having. Know their problems more than they know ours. Now, if you notice, I haven't brought up one thing about a solution. I haven't brought up one thing about a feature or a benefit. I'm talking about our customers' problems. And if we're able to focus on our customers' problems and understand them before our customers do, then we're in phenomenal shape and so are our customers, because we'll position ourselves as experts. They will rely on us, and they won't have to go online to find a bunch of garbage that they don't want to do. Right. But right now, if we continue to do what we're doing, which is responding, which is reacting, which is not being proactive, and which is not, we're not swallowing the bitter pill and telling our customers bad news before it happens, then they're simply going to use us like we're a responder on Amazon. That's it. Mm-hmm. And we're getting there right now, and we're working 60 hours a week still, busting our tail. But we're not doing the right things during those 60 hours. So the future's bright if we start doing the right thing, because no one else is doing the right thing.
The implication too, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there'll be winners and losers. There'll be individuals and organizations that adapt, and there'll be some that don't.
And Donald, your audience isn't just security industry. Your audiences are your audience at IPVM. I mean, are security professionals. So you have audiences that are end users. There are going to be winners and losers there too.
Right.
So I'm not just talking about our salespeople in our industry. I'm talking about their customers. I'm talking, if you're listening to me right now, I'm talking about your customers. They're going to be winners and losers also. So the losers are going to be the ones that have a salesperson who is responsive, that is reactive, and that's it. And so it's basically going to be like an Amazon relationship. The winners, as far as the customers goes, are going to be the ones who have, and this is multi-gender. I don't mean this to be pointed at any gender. It's a great phrase. They've got to have their guy.
Right.
And guy can be female, in my context anyway. And here's what I mean by that. So bear with me. I know I tell a lot of stories, but 3 years ago, it's 3 years now, we came home after Christmas break and our floors were buckling. And we had wooden floors. And, so I was like, what the heck happened? We'd only been gone like 10 days. And I'm looking around. I couldn't find any water. I couldn't find anything. But there was this area of our floor that was buckling. So guess what I did? And when I asked that question, everybody answers, you Googled it. No, I didn't Google it. I called Grover. Grover is our handyman. And Grover can do anything. And I mean,
he's your guy.
He's my guy. So I called my guy. I said, Grover, hey, Happy New Year. Our floors are buckling. When can you be over here, man? I don't know what to do. Came over, I don't know, within a day or two, looked at it, and Grover's one of those guys. He's probably 65 years old and could have kicked my butt when I was 25. I mean, that's just one of those dudes, He's never lifted weights before, but could probably deadlift 300 pounds tomorrow. Right. And he comes in and he looks, oh, well, yeah, he traced the water back and it was done. That's the relationship that we have to have with our customers. See, I knew that Grover would find the problem. I knew that eventually Grover would solve the problem. So why would I Google anything?
Yeah, and he's going to give you a fair price, and there's not going to be any hassle or concern that you're going to get ripped off or his advice isn't accurate.
That's right.
And you trust him.
I trust him, and I want to, there's a flow to trust today that's different than it was 15, 20 years ago. The flow to trust is, number one, competence. Number two, ethics. I hate to say it that way because ethics is always, always important, but you don't get a chance to prove your ethics until you prove your competence today. And now, remember what I said. Ethics is absolutely important because you can prove your competence and then you're unethical and you're gone forever. You can screw up on the competence and come back every now and then, right? But to get their trust, the first thing you've got to do today is you've got to be competent. Because if you're not competent, why do I even want to deal with you? I can go online. Yeah. If you're just going to give me info, I can go online and get info. I want someone who knows something that the online doesn't. I want to know, I ask people all the time, Google this, Google these words. What is my problem? Google that. What is my problem? You'll blow Google up. They won't know what to do. All Google has is solutions. That's all they have. They have a bunch of solutions. They don't understand individual problems. As a sales professional, if we can figure out what our customers' individual problems are and do a really good job of guessing because we know our space so well, then we're going to dominate in the future. Then our customers are going to be taken care of in the future. They're not just going to be clicking like an Amazon, like we've been doing for the last 3 weeks for Christmas. Just boom, 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 Amazon this, Amazon that. Right.
Now that makes incredible sense, Chris. Thanks. I kind of pivoting a little bit, specific to training, because, training is a bedrock and it does equip teams and give them the skills that they need to be successful in their professions. So the question is, do you think sales training has been adequate in preparing sales teams for the future that you just laid out?
Well, ours is.
In general.
So there are a few organizations that have done a pretty good job of identifying the environment out there and understand that it's about being that perceived expert. Here's the challenge. The challenge, and I recommend some books that folks should read. I recommend Fanatical Prospecting. I recommend To Sell is Human. I just opened up for that guy, actually. What's his name? Daniel Pink. I was a speaker. I charged my standard fee. They didn't even blink at it because Pink probably charges 5 times as much. But I was a breakout. He was the keynote. But Daniel Pink is the author of that, The Sales Human. There's another, the Challenger Sale. That's a real popular sale. So these books are great, and these concepts that these folks have are great. The problem is this. In our industry, they'd be good for like, if Access wants to bring them in to talk to Access for a 3-day session, and they bring all their folks together. But
right.
the 1,800 security integrators and security dealers around the U.S. and Canada that have an average of 1.2 salespeople, it doesn't work for them.
Right.
Because those organizations or those philosophies are well, let me back up. Read those books, folks, and grab the information and then translate it to what you can do on a day-to-day basis. I don't, because they have good concepts in it. What we do and what we do at IPVM's training is we built it specifically for the system integrator that has like 11 salespeople or 2 salespeople. Maybe they have 3 offices, so they have 18 salespeople, but not the group that has, that has the traditional Xerox looking huge sales organization with a marketing department that follows you around and a sales admin team over here that can do your laundry for you. That's not who we build our programs for. We built our programs and our content for, the IPVM member, essentially.
Right.
So there are some more, look, there are some programs out there that have good stuff. Those 3 that I just mentioned, the folks that wrote the Challenger Sale just got purchased. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Pink's good. Fanatical Prospector guy, that's good. I forget the author there. But for the most part, there's bad stuff out there. It talks about always be closing and persistence, and that's what and persistence is important, but you got to be more in persistence today. A lot of it's still old school. Throw as much mud against the wall as possible. Let's get together, and I'm gonna tell you some really killer stories and motivate you. You go out there and get them, guys. That doesn't do us any good. Well, it does do us good. Motivation is good, but so there you go, Donald. I'm acting like a commercial again, but yes, there is some stuff. But what we do differently is we've built it specifically for the independent smaller business.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. We at IPVM really value and appreciate your perspective, and we know that your time is very valuable. For those of you listening, if you want to get a little bit more information about Chris and his background, you can take a look at his website, which we have linked in the details section. Also, we'll try to link some of the books as well, so you can find those in the details section as well if you want to dig a little deeper into some of the topics we spoke about. Also want to highlight again that Chris will be teaching our security sales course starting January 7th. So if you want to learn more information about that particular course, you can visit our IPVM website and click on courses, where you'll find more details. We hope you found this valuable. If you have any feedback or comments, feel free to reach out to me personally. My name is Don May, and you can email me at donald@ipvm.com. Thank you all so much for your time. Have a great day.